Welcome to Do the Math America. I am Charlene Math Shaman.
This is lesson 9, subtracting integers. I will be using A+ notes for beginning algebra, pages 15 and 16. Please use the link in the description box below this video to make a hard copy of this textbook for yourself. Lesson 7 through 47 of my video series comes from this textbook, which is out of print and not available otherwise. I will animate the lesson and examples in this video. Subtracting integers. 8 minus 2 equals 6. 8 is the minuend, 2 is the subtrahend, and 6 is the difference. You will probably not encounter the words minuend and subtrahend very often, but the word difference is used frequently in mathematics. Unlike addition, commutative and associative do not hold true for subtraction. So, for example, a minus b does not equal b minus a. That refers to the commutative property. For example, 8 minus 4 does not equal 4 minus 8. And the associative property, which does hold true for addition, also does not hold true for subtraction. For example, if we subtract a minus b first before subtracting c, that does not equal the same thing as first subtracting b minus c and then taking the difference from a. So if we first take 8 minus 4, we get 4, and then 4 minus 2 equals 2 on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, 4 minus 2 is 2. 8 minus 2 would be 6. Subtraction is the inverse of addition. To subtract a number, we add its opposite. So, for example, the negative of a negative number we call a would be positive a. For any numbers we name a and b, a minus b equals a plus negative b, and a minus negative b equals a plus b. So for numerical examples, the negative of negative 8 is positive 8. 8 minus 2 equals 8 plus negative 2, which equals 6. And with 8 minus negative 2, we add its opposite, which gives us 8 plus 2, which equals 10. And I will include the decision tree for adding integers with positive and negative numbers, just as a reminder. So 8 plus negative 2 we would treat as a subtraction problem. The number with a larger absolute value, in this case 8, is positive, so the sign is positive, and the answer is positive 6. With 8 minus negative 2, we add its opposite. We have 8 plus 2, and we just add those numbers. Their signs are the same. It's positive 10. Plus negative a and the negative of positive a are usually simplified to be minus a. So, for example, the positive of negative 8 is negative 8. The negative of positive 8 is also negative 8. For any numbers a and b, a plus negative b is usually simplified to a minus b. For example, 8 plus negative 4 equals 8 minus 4, which equals 4. The negative sign in front of a parenthesis of any number a plus b inverses the signs of the variables inside the parenthesis. So a is positive, it becomes negative a, and plus b becomes minus b. So then we have negative a minus b, and we remove the parenthesis. The negative sign in front of the parenthesis of a minus b does the same thing. It inverses the signs of the variables within the parenthesis. So positive a becomes negative a, minus b becomes plus b. So we inverse the signs of all the variables within the parenthesis, and then we remove the parenthesis. A negative sign in front of a parenthesis means the opposite of the expression of each variable or number within the parenthesis. A negative sign with an open parenthesis, a plus b minus 3, close parenthesis, equals negative a minus b plus 3, removing the parenthesis. If the signs are the same, we combine the numbers and keep the sign. So for example, 3 plus 2 equals 5. Negative 3 minus 2 equals negative 5. So negative 3 minus 2, we add its opposite, so the signs are the same. We add the numbers, 3 and 2 equals 5, and we keep the sign. If the signs are different, we take the difference and use the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So 3 minus 1 equals positive 2, because the number with the larger absolute value, 3, is positive. Negative 3 plus 2 equals 3 minus 2, which equals 1, and it will be a negative 1 because negative 3 has the larger absolute value, and its negative sign will be carried over to the answer. 8 plus negative 4 equals 8 minus 4, which equals 4. 4 plus negative 8 is equal to the difference between 8 and 4, which is 4, and the larger number 8 gives the sign. So the answer is negative 4. So I think of it this way. 8 minus 4 equals 4, and 8 is the number with the larger absolute value, and it is a negative number, and so therefore the solution is negative. Negative 4 minus 8. Since the signs are the same, you combine the numbers, which is 12, and you keep the sign, negative 12. The way I think of it is negative 4 minus 8, you add the opposite. So now we have negative 4 plus negative 8. You add those numbers, you get 12, you keep the sign, negative 12. 8 minus negative 4, I will rewrite that equation and show you that you add the opposite, which gives us 8 plus 4, which equals 12. Negative 8 minus negative 4, and you notice the use of parentheses to maintain clarity on the negative signs. But when we add the opposite, we get negative 8 plus 4. We add integers where the signs are different. We treat it as a subtraction problem. 8 minus 4 equals 4, and the larger number, or the number with the larger absolute value, gives its sign. In this case, it's negative 8, so therefore the sign will be negative, negative 4. Next example, negative 8 minus 8. I will rewrite that equation and show you that when you add its opposite, we get negative 8 plus negative 8. Now we are adding integers with the same sign, so we combine them. 8 plus 8 equals 16, and we keep the sign. Negative 56 minus negative 24. I rewrite the equation to show you that by adding its opposite, I get negative 56 plus 24. Negative 56 plus 24 is an addition problem in which the signs are different, so I treat it as a subtraction problem, 56 minus 24, which gives me 32, and the number with the larger absolute value, 56, is negative, therefore the answer is negative 32. Always remember to include the negative sign when it's a negative solution and box your answer. Next, 56 minus negative 24. I rewrite the equation and add its opposite, which gives me 56 plus 24. 56 plus 24, I do that calculation on the side, and I find it is 80. Since 56 and 24 are both positive numbers, I keep the sign. The solution is 80. I box my answer. Next, I have negative 15 minus 12. I rewrite the equation to show you that when I add its opposite, I get negative 15 plus negative 12. Now I am adding integers with the same sign, so I do 15 plus 12 on the side, which gives me 27. I keep the sign, which is negative. It's negative 27. I box my answer. Next, I have negative, open parentheses, 15 minus 12, close parenthesis. The negative sign in front of the parenthesis means that I need to change the signs of each number within the parenthesis. So 15 becomes negative 15 and minus 12 becomes plus 12. I remove the parenthesis. Now I'm adding integers with different signs, so I treat it as a subtraction problem. 15 minus 12 equals 3, and I keep the sign of number with the larger absolute value, which is negative 15. The answer is negative 3. I box my answer. Next problem, minus, open parenthesis, 15 plus 12, close parenthesis. Once again, the negative sign in front of the parenthesis inverses signs of each number within the parenthesis. So now I have negative 15 minus 12. And I remove the parenthesis. Negative 15 minus 12, I add its opposite. Now I must solve negative 15 plus negative 12. Since both of the signs are similar, I add those numbers on the side. I get 27 and I keep the sign. The answer is negative 27. I box my answer. Evaluate each expression if x equals negative 4, y equals 3, and z equals negative 2. The equation is x minus y minus z. So now I plug and chug each number in for the variables and solve the equation. For x, I use negative 4, minus y, I use 3, minus, and for z, I use negative 2. Now I will rewrite the equation on the next line, removing parentheses by changing the sign of the numbers inside of the parentheses if there's a negative sign in front. I remove the parenthesis around minus 4 and the parenthesis around 3 to get negative 4 minus 3 minus negative 2. And I first simplify negative 4 minus 3. I do that calculation on the side. Negative 4 minus 3, I add its opposite. So now I have negative 4 plus negative 3, which equals negative 7. I write negative 7 back under the equation in place of negative 4 minus 3, and I write down the rest of the equation minus negative 2. I continue with my calculations. So now I have negative 7 minus negative 2. I add its opposite to get negative 7 plus positive 2. Negative 7 plus 2 is a subtraction problem. 7 minus 2 equals 5. I take the sign of the number with a larger absolute value. It's negative 7, so the answer is negative 5. I write equals negative 5 on the line below the equation, and I box my answer. Next problem. Evaluate each expression if x equals negative 4, y equals 3, and z equals negative 2. The equation is negative x plus the absolute value of z minus the absolute value of x. Be careful to draw your absolute value sign in such a way that you don't mistake it for the number 1. Okay, now it's just a matter of plugging in the appropriate numbers for the variables. Rewrite the equation, starting with the negative sign, and in place of x, I substitute -4. Next, I have an addition sign and the absolute value of z, and z is -2, so I write that in for z, minus the absolute value of x, which is -4. Make sure you copy down all the operation signs as well as the negative signs. So first, the negative sign inverses -4 to make it +4. So now I have +4 plus the absolute value of -2 is +2 minus the absolute value of -4 is +4. So that gives me 4 plus 2 minus 4. We solve this equation from left to right. We start with 4 plus 2, which equals 6. So now I have 6 minus 4. Copy the equation down to the next line to keep track of your calculations. 6 minus 4 equals 2. The answer is 2. Box your answer. John weighed 196 pounds. He lost 25 pounds. How much does John weigh then? So we start by organizing ourselves by writing down the facts of the problem. John weighed 196 pounds. He lost 25 pounds, so this will be a subtraction problem. 196 minus 25, which equals 171. So John weighs 171 pounds. We write out the answer and box the answer. Find the difference between 2 points, -5 and 7 on the number line. Start by drawing out the number line and labeling the points -5 and 7 so I can visualize clearly the problem I need to solve. So the distance between those 2 points would be an absolute value because the number will be positive. So it would be 7 minus -5. 7 minus -5, I add the opposite, which gives me 7 plus 5. 7 plus 5 equals 12. The absolute value of 12 is +12. So 12 is my answer, and I box my answer. The other way to solve this problem is to find the absolute value of -5 minus 7. -5 minus 7, I add its opposite to get -5 plus -7. 5 plus 7 equals 12. I keep the negative sign to get -12. The absolute value of -12 equals +12, or just plain 12. I box my answer. What is the distance between 125 feet below sea level and 102 feet below sea level? So first I draw some rippling water to show the surface of the sea. And then I draw a line to indicate 125 feet below sea level and mark along that line to show approximately 102 feet below sea level. Whenever you have a word problem, you should always draw out a picture of that problem, including all the facts of the problem, so that you have an idea on how to approach solving it. I start by labeling distance, d, as the value that I need to solve for. So d equals the absolute value of 125 feet below sea level, I would call -125, minus 102 feet below sea level, I would call that -102. And I complete the absolute value sign. So now I solve within the absolute value sign, negative 125 minus negative 102. I add its opposite to get negative 125 plus 102. I do that calculation on the side. 125 minus 102 is 23. And since the larger absolute value is 125, which is negative, it would be negative 23. The absolute value of negative 23 is 23. 23 feet is the answer. I box my answer. The best way to get good at math is to do plenty of practice problems. The practice problems for this lesson are on page 16. Please do as many problems as you need to get a firm grasp of the material. And please check your answers with those in the back of the book on page 289 to make sure you did the problems correctly.
I hope this video was helpful to you. Thank you for joining me at Do the Math America.